Jesus understands that we misunderstand. Grace and peace, everybody. Welcome to Sabbath School Study Group. This is part number 3 of our 5-part series looking at controversies. We're actually going to roll over into Mark chapter 3 at this point to understand how Jesus was dealing with the hot potato issues, because we still have the same challenges. Why not look at the same solutions? And that's what we're trying to do. In this part of the story, we look at what Jesus is dealing with when it comes to those who are around him and even those who have claimed to follow him. When they go sideways or when they miss his step, how does he deal with them? How does he handle them? It's exactly how he handles us even now when we don't understand. But before we go forward, I want to thank you for watching. We appreciate you. Please like this video, join us, subscribe to the channel on whatever platform you happen to be watching this, and pass it on. And then also visit us online, changeministry.org. That's where you're going to find a whole lot more. In fact, we have an entire prophecy series. We think that would be a blessing to you and encourage your faith for the future. Visit us at changeministry.org, and you see the link right here below the video. Jesus understands that we misunderstand. He knows our frame. I know that one of the more attractive ideas is that God just knows our name. But recently, he's been really impressing upon me that he doesn't just know who I am. He knows what I am. And he has a very clear understanding of my limitations, a better understanding than I do. And that's what should compel me and compel us to be humble, but also to lean on him even further and harder than we ever do. But when Jesus understands us, that means he knows the good and the bad. And a lot of times we just think of the bad in terms of our sin, but I'm talking about bad in terms of our sinfulness, our limitations, our finiteness. They're not surprises to him. They don't threaten him. What we're talking about here, for example, when you look at Mark chapter 3, and he's, again, the multitude coming together again so that they could not so much as eat bread. So these people are pressing in around him, and to the point that when Jesus' friends heard of it, they went out to lay hold on him, for they said, he is beside himself. And the scribes, which came down from Jerusalem, said, he hath Beelzebub, and by the prince of the devils casteth he out devils. Now, there are two groups of people that are misunderstanding the one who came to be understood. One is, it literally says his friends. Then on the other hand, it says the scribes and the Pharisees. We pretty much are familiar with who is who, right? In terms of the scribes and the Pharisees. They aren't his friends. We probably get that. Yeah, they don't understand because they're enemies. They don't like Jesus. They don't get him. Okay. But then his friends, the people who roll with him, they don't even understand. They don't get it. So we have two different groups of people who are actually still in the same place in relationship to Christ. They really aren't 100% getting it. So in a certain way, they know of him, but they really don't know him. How does Jesus respond to this reality? Because we first have to establish the fact that God gets that. He understands that we misunderstand. Let's look at the next verse. How does Jesus handle us when we're on understanding? Verse 23 says, and he, Jesus, called them unto him and said unto them in parables. How can Satan cast out Satan? And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. Do you see what Jesus does? He sits his friends down with his foes. Because it says he says unto them. It doesn't say he points at one group in particular, but he sets all of his students down. He sets the good students down and the bad students down. Said, hold on, story time. Let me explain something to you. And then when he says it, his answer is so powerful that it can apply to both groups. Where he says a house divided against itself, it can't stand. He's looking at a house divided against itself, and he brings them together with a story. This is the power of storytelling. This is the work of a master teacher. This is a master counselor. This is a pastor. This is someone who gets people, and he knows the quickest, most effective way to get a point across is to tell a story. But notice he tells a story, but there is no record of him yelling. There is no record of him reacting in a way that would be like, whoa, calm down, Jesus. We don't hear any response to that. Jesus understands that we don't understand. So just like a good father, he tells a story. And so when you get to verse 28, he continues. But he goes a little bit from a story mode to now getting to the points that are based in the story. Verily I say unto you, all sins shall be forgiven unto the sons of men, and blasphemies wherewithsoever they shall blaspheme. But he that shall blaspheme against the Holy Ghost hath never forgiveness, but is in danger of eternal damnation, because they said he hath an unclean spirit. So do we see the transition? It's like Jesus starts off in elementary school mode, but then he goes up into high school, college level, to where he's not so much just using a story, but now he's coming up with points and principles that you might not get from the story, but you need to walk away with this. When he was accused of being possessed by Beelzebub, Jesus is trying to say, wait a minute, hold up. I know that I'm not possessed by another spirit. I need you all to recognize your risk. I need you to recognize the threat that you have in missing the Spirit of God working on your life right now. I'm here right now to get you to understand what you are misunderstanding. But if you refuse to accept it, you will actually find yourself guilty of the sin against the Spirit of God. I.e., because you've cut yourself off from grace, you cut yourself off from forgiveness. In this case, Christ is offering understanding through a story. He's even offering understanding through this message. But if they refuse it, they'll find themselves, and we will even find ourselves, outside of the reach of God's grace. Not because he didn't try, but because we refuse to accept it. This is the lesson Christ wants them and us to walk away with. He gets it that we don't get it, but he comes to us in order for us to come to him.